Donald Trump just said out loud what we always expected. He's going to use his Department of Justice's Antitrust Division to benefit his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who's part of the acquisition group trying to acquire the Warner Brothers assets. Not just HBO, but CNN as well. See, Donald Trump wants that to end up in the hands of his buddy, Larry Ellison, the right-wing MAGA owner of Oracle, and his son who owns Paramount Skydance. Who's part of the investment team of Paramount Skydance? Somebody named Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of Donald Trump, who's married to Ivanka, who has a $2 billion fund funded by the Saudi Arabians called Affinity. Affinity partners, along with the Saudis, money from Abu Dhabi and from Qatar, are all trying to win the prized Warner Brother assets, including CNN. That's where Donald Trump wants it to end up. Just like he wanted Skydance Paramount to end up acquiring CBS to pay them back for the 60 Minutes interviews with Kamala Harris. And he was able to accomplish that by using his Federal Communications Commission and Brendan Carr to bash CBS. And so that happened just a couple of months ago. Now this ownership group of Paramount Skydance, controlled by the Ellison family, friends of Donald Trump, want to now take on CNN. Netflix stands in the way. You might have heard over the weekend that Netflix won the bidding war of $72 billion, the largest acquisition in history, to acquire the Warner Brother assets, which are DC Comics like Superman, TNT, CNN, HBO, because they want to get all those intellectual property assets under their control for their streaming service. Now, Paramount Skydance, run by Ellison, have fired back and said, no, we're going to go up another 30%. We're going to go to $108 billion. Where's our money coming from? Affinity Partners, Jared Kushner, the Saudis, the Qataris, the people from Abu Dhabi. That's where our money comes from. We know where Netflix's money comes from. It comes from Netflix. It's an American company. No, Donald Trump would rather turn this prized American company over to the Arab world through his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. So he said the quiet part out loud. I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. You're illegal AF. Take a minute and hit the free subscribe button. Donald Trump said over the weekend that he's going to be one of the people that's going to be deciding who gets this asset. Who says? Because he's going to manipulate the Department of Justice's Antitrust Division? That's already shown to be a lackey who's doing transactional work for Donald Trump, violating their ethics. That's okay. Let's play the clip of Donald Trump admitting he's going to interfere on behalf of Larry Ellison and Paramount Skydance to make sure his son-in-law gets the benefit of the Warner Brothers acquisition. Play the clip.
Mr. President, I met with Ted. I think he's fantastic. I think he's, in the history of Hollywood, has really been almost, you could say, nothing like what he's done. He'd go back to Louis B. Mayer, maybe, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM. Ted has done an incredible job. I mean, he had a company that was very troubled 7 or 8 years ago, and he took it over, and he's really done a legendary job.
Should they be allowed to buy Warner Brothers? Should Netflix?
Well, that's the question. They have a very big market share. And when they have Warner Brothers, that share goes up a lot. So I don't know. That's going to be for some economists to tell, and I'll be involved in that decision too. They have a very big market share.
Did he make any guarantees to you about the merger if they do merge?
No, not at all. He came up. He was in the Oval Office last week. I have a lot of respect for him. He's a great person, but he's done one of the greatest jobs in the history of movies and other things. He's got a lot of interesting things happening aside from what you're talking about. But it is a big market share. There's no question about it. It could be a problem.
Now, the Ellison Nepo baby, who runs Skydance Paramount Skydance, which again just acquired CBS, and turned it into and is going to turn it into a Trump propaganda platform. He went on the news to attack not just Netflix but Warner Brothers. Let's play the clip.
David, why are you doing this?
So look, we're really here to finish what we started. Just to kind of take you through the road in terms of how we got here. On December 1st, we made an offer to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery to their board, had a conversation with David Zaslav, He came back with a bunch of issues. We then on December 4th sent in a bid that addressed every single one of them that is superior to the bid that they signed up. Our offer is $30 a share, all cash, $41 billion in equity that's backstopped by the Ellison family and Redbird, $54 billion in debt with commitments from Citi, Bank of America, and Apollo. We have faster regulatory certainty to close, and our deal is pro-consumer, it's pro-creative talent, it's pro-competition, and we believe that when you actually, to further contextualize.
So let me put on my Wall Street hat for a minute. What are we watching here? This is what's now called a hostile takeover. And so here's how it works. If you have a friendly bid that's invited by a company like Warner Brothers, who has obligations, the board of directors of Warner Brothers has an obligation under Delaware law which governs these transactions. It has a fiduciary duty to make sure that the shareholders get the highest price possible. There's many ways to evaluate a merger and acquisition bid. You can do it by just pure money, how much of it is in cash, how much it is in financing, where is the financing coming from, what kind of autonomy will the news departments have, and things like that. All different factors into evaluating a bid. Once you go into a competitive mode, your company is effectively up for auction to the highest bidder, because that's what the Delaware law says is the best way to get highest shareholder value once the company has made a decision to put themselves up for sale. So once they puts themselves up for sale, the board can't just go with their favorite. They have to go with the best, the highest and best. That'll be evaluated eventually by a judge in Delaware. It'll also be evaluated by shareholder suits. There is going to be a dozen or more, I assure you, class action suits filed in Delaware. I can tell you the firms that are going to do it, to go after the board, to force this, to talk about the stock price dropping, because there's right now, Netflix is down, Paramount and Discovery Channel is up in terms of stock pricing, and there's people that are buying and selling, relying on going to the highest bidder. And if they get crushed, there's already shareholder suits that are going to be filed on this. So you got the shareholders that are going to be involved in this decision making. And then you've got when the losing bidder, in this case, Paramount Skydance, gets pissed off, they can go into hostile mode. I've been involved in hostile takeovers in the past. They can go into hostile mode and say, screw the board. We're going to make a direct appeal to the shareholders and tell them what our bid is. So what they're saying now is their bid is $108 billion, all cash, $30 a share, which is 138% premium over the current stock price. Netflix is still at 28. Now look, Netflix, let's be fair, it's going to have to come up. 28 and 72 billion. I mean, I wasn't a math major, but 108 is larger than 72. Assuming that the financing is securely in place. And apparently Larry Ellison, Donald Trump's buddy, has said he backstops all of the purchase with his own fortune. Okay, all things being equal, it's got to go to Paramount Skydance. So unless Netflix comes up, and then you get an incremental bidding war. So the next move you're going to see is if Netflix can't convince the voters that theirs is the better offer, they're going to have to come up in the money, somewhere closer to 108, maybe 105, maybe 103. I think they're going to have to cross the $100 billion barrier. And then the next move is on Paramount. Trump is trying to manipulate the playing field by arguing that he's going to stand in the way and he's going to force his Department of Justice Antitrust Division not to approve Netflix. Now, I'm not sure why Paramount Skydance is any better. They've got their own monopoly problems. They control CBS and Paramount. Putting all of this together is anti-competitive. Netflix is the largest streaming service in the world. They're looking for content. I know that some movie distributors and movie theaters are upset because they think, well, Warner Brothers, a major Hollywood filmmaker, is now going to be under the control of Netflix. But Netflix has its own filmmaking. They were just nominated for like a dozen Oscars. Yeah, they're in that business already. You know, I was telling my wife, who came to this country in 2013, I said, you should, Netflix? I heard about Netflix in 2000 when they had little red envelopes. You guys remember Netflix, how it originally started? You rented 3 to 6 CD-ROMs or CDs of movies or DVDs of movies that showed up in a red envelope, and you paid like $9.99 or $7.99 a month, and then they held it hostage until you returned the videos, and then after you returned the videos, you got another 3 or 4 videos, right? I watched all the foreign films to my heart's content in the summer of 2000, every Japanese masterpiece through Netflix. Thank you, Netflix. Then as the internet got faster and the velocity of upload and download speeds matched, then they could start streaming. So then they started streaming the videos. They weren't making their own content. Then 10 years later, 12 years later, they started making their own content, and then it became the Netflix that you and I know. But it started out as the Red Envelope Company. Give them a lot of credit for that. And now they're about to acquire, potentially, Warner Brothers. But I wanted you to understand hostile takeover and the fiduciary responsibilities of Delaware boards of directors. They normally set up, and I'm sure they have already, a special committee separate from the board that reports ultimately to the board to evaluate the bids, to insulate the board from any kind of conflicts. So I'm sure there's a special committee. It usually has its own outside lawyer, its own general counsel that's not affiliated with the company, to start making independent decisions on behalf of the shareholders. And that's what Paramount Skydance is banking on, that they can appeal to the special committee. And ultimately, if they don't get the special committee to agree, they're going to do a direct proposal to the shareholders. And then we got a real hostile takeover. And then I'll have to get more information, and I'll bring it back to you here on Legal AF about what is in the corporate documents about Warner Brothers, about a potential hostile takeover. Do they have a poison pill mechanism, which is if a hostile takeover, I'm sure there's a hostile takeover mechanism that would prevent certain things from happening if the board doesn't want it. Then you got to fight over the poison pill versus the shareholder rights. We'll map it all out for you. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button. I'll continue to post you here and on Legal AF Substack. Become a member there as well. And I'll give you live reporting updates about this. But this matters. This is about CNN's independence. This is about Donald Trump interfering with a commercial transaction to benefit his family. And we're going to call it out here on Legal AF. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.